Today we are exploring the heart of small business success leadership that's built from within. With Rich Ashton, a seasoned entrepreneur who has spent over 4 decades nurturing people and enterprises. We dive into the art of developing leaders who rise from the very culture they helped create. This conversation uncovers how small businesses can grow, not just through strategy, but through people empowered, trained, and trusted to lead. Welcome to the show. It's such an honor to have you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Mhm. So, Rich, you have seen firsthand the challenge of choosing between hiring leaders externally or developing them internally. So, what made you realize that growing your own was the more sustainable path?
I guess the sad answer to that is that I failed both promoting people who were not prepared to be leaders and then bringing in outside leadership talent. Neither one worked effectively. So we decided that with great employees in our business, we would take a real hard shot at developing them, helping them break through some of their self-perceived limitations and building them into a strong leadership team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. And did you notice a specific moment or a pattern when internal leadership clearly outperformed external hires?
Well, I think that's a great question. So, small businesses all seem to have unique cultures, and preserving that culture is key to preserving and growing the business. Employees who have grown up in that culture, are aware of that culture, believe in that culture, are the ones who will sustain that culture going forward. And so once I realized that, it became so important for us to give every effort to allow those people to lead the company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And your insights here will help listeners understand the deeper cultural impact of organic leadership.
Yeah, I just think that you can't beat having people who believe what you believe. It's In bringing in people from outside the organization. Not only do you risk them not being compatible with your values and your unique culture, but your existing employees wonder, if we worked so hard to build this thing to this point, why are you bringing in somebody else now that we're having a lot of success? Uh, we I actually experienced that once, and it was terribly defeating for our existing employees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. And many small businesses hesitate to promote great employees because skill and leadership aren't the same. So, what's the first trait you look for when identifying someone with leadership potential?
Another good question. I think that shared values is number one, particularly in a small company. Uh, there's no hiding in a small company. Everything you do is exposed. We tend to do a lot of different tasks, and if you aren't in sync with values, it's really difficult to make someone into a leader that the other people who believe in those values are going to follow.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And so, how do you differentiate potential from personality traits that might merely look like leadership?
Yeah, I have been fooled at times by that, but the leadership course that we put them through was very personal and very convicting, and we learned pretty early who was serious about being a leader and who was not, who had the potential to be a leader and who did not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this will open a nuanced discussion about discernment and avoiding common selection mistakes.
Yeah, I wish that I could tell you that I'm better on the hiring side, but I'm not. I've made my fair share of mistakes on the hiring side. I think that's common in small businesses, but I think I do recognize human potential. And so I'm willing to go a long way toward developing people before I give up on them. But you have to be careful. You have to be willing to pull the plug on a failed experiment every now and then, even though it involves human lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And you created a leadership training program that transformed your own business. So, what core principle anchors that training?
Again, it's a value-based training. We started out by going. We had 8 people on our leadership team at that point. And I went around the room at the end of the first meeting and I asked them to identify what ceiling was holding them back. And all of us have ceilings imposed by our life experiences. And we tell ourselves we can't do this or we can't do that. And so we once we went around the room and identified those ceilings, then I told each one of them what whether I thought they could break through, and in every case I thought they could, and what it would look like when they did. So that's how we started the program, and we never really got away from that idea of breaking through these self-imposed limitations that we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And which part of the program tends to surprise people the most once they begin?
It was a good surprise. We had some absolutely spectacular breakthroughs. One of them is a young man who came to us at the age of 19. His goal was to work long enough to earn enough money to go back to Mexico. He's here 19 years later and he's become one of our strongest leaders. He was raised in a family that never talked about leadership, never thought he would ever be a leader. And so he didn't think he would ever be a leader or could be a leader. Bit by bit through this program, he surprised everybody with his reservoir of leadership ideas and insights. And now he's an indispensable part of our leadership team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And also, your response highlights the mindset shift that new leaders must embrace.
They do. There comes a time when you say, it's up to me. And being a leader is being accountable. We preach a lot of accountability. I was very influenced and impressed by the book Extreme Ownership. We taught that book actually to our leadership team several years ago, so they had a good grounding in accountability and responsibility. But if you're the idea that if you're going to be a leader, you have to be accountable, you have to be responsible, you have to be proactive. All of those things were a part of our leadership course.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And small businesses often have close knit entrepreneurial cultures. So, how can leaders step up without disrupting the spirit that made the company thrive in the first place?
I like that question. There is another book called Start with Why, written by Simon Sinek, which we all read and defined the why in our company. Every decision that we make runs through the filter of why are we here? Why are we in business? What is it we're trying to accomplish? And it has kept our leadership team grounded as they look at making changes. And they've actually made several changes, but every one of them was true to our why, which is providing exceptional customer service by empowering and supporting employees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And is there a leadership behavior you consider essential for preserving that culture?
It is. If you simply chase the latest shiny fad or great idea without running it through a filter of why you do what you do, you can get off track pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this also helps the listeners to see how leadership can strengthen, not overshadow the company's identity.
Yes, I think the leaders are the company identity, um, simply because they believe in and preach the values that I mentioned at the first part of the show.
Yeah, definitely. And you eventually stepped back because your leaders were fully capable of running the businesses. And what does true readiness look like in an emerging leader?
Well, I did it in stages. I stepped back in stages. For the last year, I've actually officed at the company, but I have not participated in leadership meetings. I've been aware of everything that's going on, but I'm a pretty good delegator, and I really believe in passing authority and responsibility at the same time when I delegate. And I did that. I watched from a distance, but I was there and they knew I was there. This month, I actually will be moving into an office offsite, and it'll be the first time that I'm not there. Uh, but it was clear through this year that the team was ready.
Yeah, that's amazing. And did their readiness change the way you saw your own role as a founder?
It is a bit of a struggle when you've been the founder and you've been there all along to turn your baby over to other people. But to be honest with you, they proved to me over and over again that they were strong enough for the challenge. As I said earlier, they've made some changes this year that I probably would not have made or would not have been skilled enough to make. And they were the right decisions and the right changes to make. So it makes it easier when I see their success.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 100%. And this also offers a powerful perspective on legacy, trust, and the art of letting go.
Letting go for an entrepreneur is probably one of the biggest challenges, and like I said, letting turning your baby over to somebody else is a problem, but I'm at the age where I had to do something. I'm not gonna live forever, and, this was forced upon me, I guess, just by age. My alternative is to sell the business, and it would be harder for me to sell the business, which has such an identifiable culture, to someone who doesn't share those values, that this was a far better alternative for me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. And as we wrap up, let this conversation remind listeners that leadership isn't a title, it's a cultivated ecosystem. Small businesses flourish when people are given the room to grow, fail, learn, and rise with intention. Whether you lead a team or two or 20, the future of your business begins with the people you invest in today. Let this be an invitation to nurture potential, build trust, and grow leaders from the root up.